Good evening. My name is Vicki Pulis. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our Rotary Youth Exchange Bootcamp webinar. So it's my pleasure to introduce your presenter for this webinar. With us tonight from the Rotary Club of Reno is our District 5190 Chair for Rotary Youth Exchange, Tim Lucas. So Tim, before we start, would you share with us how long you've been the chair for the district committee and maybe a little bit about how you got involved with Rotary Youth Exchange?
Sure, and I guess I should start with the first thing, is like never take a selfie and send it in when you need a picture. You know,
it's a lovely picture, Tim.
It is. We'll live with it, and I'm fine. No, I've been involved with Rotary Youth Exchange now for, even before I was a Rotarian for a couple of years. When Dick Hughes I don't remember how I ran into Dick years ago, and we were doing non-Rotary exchanges, and then started doing Rotary Youth Exchange, so 6 years-ish, somewhere in there.
Wonderful.
And then in 2012, I became the chair. So it was to be 12 to 14, and now it's going to be to 15, and that's fun. It's been a lot of fun. I enjoy doing it. We have a great district committee, and I just find a lot of reward of working with the students. So I hope you all will do the same, and we're going to have, I think, a lot of fun tonight learning about a lot of the basics.
Great. Well, then I'll let you take it from here, Tim. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. So one of the things with this program is designed to do is to give you a basic understanding of where you can find the vast majority of the materials about Rotary Youth Exchange at your fingertips. So whether you've been involved in the program for a long period of time, or you're coming back into the program, or you're a new initiate who's going to be a new counselor on the horizon or a youth exchange officer, to bring information to your club and to be able to get the program started. What we're not going to be doing today is doing any kind of certification training, preparing to make you an expert of how to do the program, or carrying on any of what would be the kind of our administrative requirements. It's a program designed to show you where, again, you can find the materials easily. And we're going to start kind of at the district website, and we're going to portal from there. There's only a couple of things that you won't see as we go along here, and I will highlight them to where that information is. But everything in here is information that you can have literally at the click of a button. So with that, we'll go over here. So if we go to the District 5190 website, and I should go to the home. I wasn't at the home. And everybody should recognize District Governor Joe and the normal information that we see there on a day-to-day basis. All we need to do in order to get over to our website is you go through the avenues of service, as you pull down youth service, and then you'll come over and see Rotary Youth Exchange. Simply click it. In there you'll see my contact information along with John Green, who's our executive secretary and literally the well of knowledge of the program. But instead of, as we kind of have a say that call John if you need anything, let's try not to call John first. Let's see if we can find the information first. So all we simply do is to go over here to the hyperlink where you see it's underlined here, so you know it's active. Because we're off it, the arrow is there, fingers over it, and that should take us to our website. So the first thing you'll notice about our website is that it has a banner listing across the top with a lot of pull-down menus. And I'll talk about those in a moment. And on the side of our website here you see a lot of different flags from different countries. All those countries are hyperlinked, and I'll show you that in a moment. By that I mean if you go to any of those, for example here on Germany, and we click it, it immediately takes us over to Germany and you can learn all about the country. So no one needs to be an expert about their country just from the get-go, and they can find information. We break our program down, and there's two large category areas, and that's long-term exchange and short-term exchange. For today's webinar, we're going to be focusing on the long-term exchange, which is the visa program, the high school enrolled students. In that, we look at really 3 different categories, or 4 if you will. Outbound students, those are our students, as pictured here, who are going overseas. Inbound students, pictured here, who've come to us from overseas. And then you have host families who are hosting those students. And the one category, well, I said 4, that's not shown here in these 2 breakouts, are our volunteers. Okay, that would be your counselors and your YEOs. When we go across to the top banner portion, you can see if you pull it down, it pulls out both of our programs, the long term and the short term. So if we click down just on the long term, now you have a brief explanation of the long-term program. So if anybody was to ask you, well, what is long-term Rotary Youth Exchange? You can either get them to the district website and tell them to follow the links, or you can get them to the Rotary Youth Exchange website, which you can see, since you'll be able to see the banner headlines up here. It's simply rye5190.org. But again, I like to get everybody back to the district site, so if you tell them just to go to their Rotary Youth Exchange under the Youth Services, and they'll find those hyperlinks. Again, as you go down here, it talks about the issues of what we give for orientation for our students and the topics covered. You can find down here again, you can see as my arrow goes from arrow to finger, there are hyperlinks, which will take you very similar to the flags from the initial page. There's down here the explanation of how you would apply, okay, the selection and orientation process for the long-term students. Now, in terms of timing of the program, we just recently held our first orientation for those who would be going out on exchange in the summer of 2015 through the year 16. I said we just held our first orientation. We will be doing a makeup. All your club presidents got notice of the deadlines and the dates to get the applications in. If you have a student who may be interested, you get their name immediately to us, and I'll show you how to find the applications and get a hold of us vis-a-vis an email. Then we will be able to get them enrolled, because essentially the last deadline that we will have will be the second weekend in December. So when we conduct our interviews. From that date, you have to back up approximately 2 weeks, and we have to have the full applications in. Once we make our decisions, we will have our primary candidates for all our countries and then our alternates. So then we go back up to the top. If we click the inbound students, it gives a brief explanation and introduction to what inbound students are in our program. Host family gives you a brief description about host families and what they do for us. One thing, when you go to the student protection, if you need to know student protection policies, not only for RYE, but frankly for District 5190, we have these all set out here, and you can go to the hyperlinks at the bottom. By hyperlinks, again, as you see the arrow, it switches over to the finger. So we have our student protection policy that breaks that out. Now we do home interviews in a program, criminal background checks. The other one is our sexual abuse and harassment prevention policy. Don't mind me, this is my Windows 8. Likes to put a plug in. And you'll see, as you can, again, we won't go through all this on a verbatim basis, but it has all the definitions, who the legal contexts are. We have 2 different district attorneys that work closely with our committee. Larry Allen, who not only works with RYE, but all the youth programs, who's the district attorney up in Sierra County. We have Tom Hardy, who is the district attorney down in Inyo County. Our programs, because we do both states, we make sure we're in compliance both with Nevada and California law. Okay. And again, they're there for your reference. You don't have to print them off. All you need to do, again, is remember the websites. And then the one thing about our RYE program is we have State Department compliance standards. And one of the things, well, it's brief here, all our volunteers do have to take the State Department Youth Protection Policy test, and it's done on an annual basis. It's certified, and it keeps our program in compliance. Okay. The next thing, and probably the most important, is when you see the downloads and forms. So one of the things that we're just about completed now is our process of being essentially, I'm going to call about 95% paper-free. We do not like paper. We don't want paper, frankly, except for the areas where it's absolutely necessary. One of the things in the programs in the past, we really don't print anything out anymore for people because it's all available for them to download. So when you go on the Download Forms tab, here, one of the things that you'll see is a filter box when you first come in here, which is up here. This has a drop-down menu, okay, that you can adjust by the type of program area that you are interested in. That can be volunteers, host families, club counselor YEOs, students, and we also have a category called applications. You will see the same down here on all our documents on a long list. Okay. But it can be, we thought it was a little bit more easier for people coming to our site to say if you're a student, if you're a counselor, if you're a host family, to be able to thin them down. So for example, if we go to volunteers and host families, boom, you can see the list has been thinned down quite a bit. One of the things that as we hit each of the hyperlinks, and again by that I mean these are the file names on the side here. You see my cursor changes again. Gives you a brief description of what it is, okay, and to what category applies. Since we have the filter on for volunteers host family, the category is all that. Now if we click on, for example, the host family application, one of the first things you'll know on here is that no form comes up. It used to come up. And for those of you who had been in the program just a little over a year ago, you would have said, where is the application? I was looking for it. This is part of a new program that I'm going to show you towards the end of our boot camp here called YEA. And YEA stands for those of you who are looking for acronyms, Youth Exchange Administrative Hub. It is essentially our paperless backbone. And when you click onto your host family application, it will go into an automatic online fill-out form. Okay. One of the things that is helpful, though, in this volunteer and host family area is we have the handbook. Many of you will remember that who have been involved in the program before, and for others who have not, that when you deal with your host families, we've developed a whole handbook of what we think are all the comprehensive pieces that a host family needs to have at their fingertips. So not only, though, do you have it, this is an open website. They can get it whenever they need it. Okay? So if they click onto it, other than my Windows plugin, you will see, and let me just take it down a little bit easier to see. There we go. Okay. The only thing with this one is slightly out of date. We're about 6 months behind updating this one, and because of our other paperless programs that we were working for, we would have had this one done. But as you can see, as we go through here, it has the table of contents is fairly broad, and when we qualify host families, we go through and work through basically all the categories that you'll see here in their handbook so they can understand, if you will, the substance, okay, behind being a host family, particularly what the students go through during different stages, also how Rotary supports them as their host families over the time of their exchange. And as you may be aware, we try to have 3 host families for every student, inbound student. So that means each one has a little bit different of a feel, and we go through that process with them. Can you say it's about 35 pages, and it's great resource to have it at their fingertips. They can download it hard copy, they can download it PDF, they could put it on a tablet, a phone, their computer, whatever they want to do. But it's readily available for them. Any questions so far?
Let me, would it be okay if I check with our audience, Tim? Hang on
Certainly.
just a second. So Talia?
Yes.
Because I'm not sure you can type in your questions, I wanted to check back with you and see if you had any questions.
No, thank you. No, he's been very clear.
Okay, is there anything else specific that you wanted to learn tonight? Before
I'm always curious. I wanted to go on. I forget so much that it's always good to be renewed.
Great. I'm going to mute you again, but if you can raise your hand if you need me to unmute you, that would be great.
Okay, that's great.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We'll close out of this one. Okay. And now what we will switch over to our YEO and Club Counselors section. One of the first things you'll see, and for those of you who are YEOs, we have put out a section of host family vignettes. I love the plugins. And let me just. And the vignettes are, what would you do if? And sometimes when you as counselor, these can be very interesting discussions, and you can actually give them to your host families. They can read them ahead of time, and you can discuss with them, what would you do? Wrapped only in a towel, goes back in the room, gets dressed. You have young women, young men, mixed genders. How would you handle that in your household? And so it is a very good place to kind of start, because there will be different morals and different standards from which they're coming to their host countries. And many, if not all of these, we have seen. Not me personally, but within our committee's history, we've seen many of those. You'll have down here as you go through the training, when we train up our counselors, and you have your formal training, is you have to do interviews and checks. And one of the things that you'll see here, so integration, there's no longer any direct link to these. These are going to, again, take you to our new program. But you have a place where all the resources are at, and that's what's important to us. We go down to one of the most important documents from a club perspective, okay, is going to be the guidelines. You also see down here right below the guidelines a checklist, okay, a move-in checklist, and the RY. All those are equally important. These two are actually pieces within our guidelines, but we want to make sure that you understand the guidelines will have all the appendix. So if we click that over, this is a form again too that's our current one's about a year out of date, but all the information other than some of the dates in it is current. We will look at going back and updating it very soon. One of the things, though, if you go to the table of contents, okay, you'll see, interesting, that there's kind of 8 pages of rough substance. I shouldn't say rough substance. It's the program descriptions, and then we have a series of appendices, so that we end up going to 32 pages through this document, but each one's broken down. I'll walk through some of the more important one of these for you, so that you can understand how the program operates and what we consider to be the important objectives, the important steps for you as a volunteer counselor or YEO in the program. What are the objectives of the program? So you can explain those to the club, or if you're in question yourself. Obviously, we have a purpose and guidelines. Starting on page 3, and is a long list, is called club responsibilities. It may look a little daunting, but many of them become very natural steps as you go through the process, and they become almost second nature to you. One of the big things for the club is to appoint a youth exchange officer. Many of the smaller clubs, particularly, will have the youth exchange officer and the club counselor for an inbound student be the same individual. And that's permissible. That's permissible. Of importance will be the eligibility issues for outbound candidates. There's a repeat here again of our application and selection process. You'll see up here is the time or how old they can be, 15 to 18 and a half at the time they depart. Many of those are driven by visa requirements. For example, they get J1 visas when they come into this country. They get the equivalent when they go to our overseas countries. And so a number of them have restrictions. In fact, there are some countries that can't even be 18 and a half. These are the ones you can see here where the dates are, and those are the very similar every year, approximately the same time. Again, we just had our first inbound orientation for candidates for 15-16. We'll be doing a makeup here shortly. All paperwork is approximately the 19th of November must be in, and then we hold the interviews on the 13th, 14th, which is the second weekend in December 2014. Clubs who sponsor an outbound student are required to host an inbound student. It is reciprocal arrangements that we have with our exchange district, so we want to make sure that we stay with that. Now, we do allow clubs, if they have more than one qualified applicant, to give us an alternate, because there are times when the primary applicant may drop out. There are also times where clubs will take an inbound student without taking an outbound student. And so that's a way for us to pair up to allow another high school student from District 5190 to go overseas, because another club from a different area is willing to take an inbound sponsor from our exchange partner district overseas. Okay. Let's switch down here. I'll have one more. If I'm going too fast, anybody just let me know. So we go to appendixes, or appendices, depending on how you want to describe it. The very first one gives you additional resources. And here with this one, if you're doing it online, you'll notice that they're highlighted, and these are actual hyperlinks. So if I clicked any of these, they will take me to the appropriate place. For example, the RYE tours. That'll take me over to the student tours that are available for this year. And simply, again, just go from link to link to link. I did this last time too, the guide. There we go. Okay. So again, all your resources at your fingertips. You can hyperlink into them quickly. When we go down to Appendix B, it's a sample timeline of the program highlights. Okay. And you can see we have responsible parties, what's going on in the particular month. So see, there are months that are busier than others. April is a very busy month because we have to get a lot of visa stuff taken care of, and that can spill over into May depending on how much we get done. But March is relatively light. February is generally very light. The other one that's important for the clubs is, what is a budget? When you sponsor an outbound student, there's very little cost in doing so. But where the cost comes to the club is the payments for the inbound student. The biggest expense is they are required to have a monthly allowance. The district average is approximately $130. It has to be a minimum of $100. I don't know if anybody's even close to that. And then the other program costs that the club will sponsor for the student. Okay. Most of the appendix that are in our guidelines for the clubs come from, and we are thankful for and plagiarize from some of the original stuff done by the Carson City Club, who had this well developed. Go down. You'll see from the appendices you have an Appendix D, tips for recruiting host families. These are not an exhaustive list, not intended to. There's tips for recruiting outbound students. Okay, notices that you can provide for them. If I get down to H, it should be, I think, 20. Oops, one too many. I just jumped down to Appendix 8 so I can get you there a little bit faster. Let me go up. If I'm going too fast, please let me know. But here's a set of, Appendix I, a set of interview questions when your club is interviewing for parents, for students. Okay, so that all of these provide you a good basis and a foundation by which your club can step off. It does not need to reinvent the wheel. And there's no necessity to do so. One of the things that's a frequent question is about travel and what are the rules. I've got these pages right here. Okay. Because Appendix Q is a travel policy. I'll show you also it is a separate drop down for students. And it's a frequent question between the clubs, the students, their host families, even sometimes members of our committee of what can be done, what can't be done. You'll see there's particular blackout dates. All the students know about the required dates. For example, district conference is one. They're mandatory orientations, of which they have 3 that they have to attend. Okay. That would require information if they're going outside the district. And this is all for student protection. We have agreed to take responsibility for them, to safeguard them, and we take that seriously. Okay. Within the contiguous United States, we do have students who go outside the contiguous United States, for example, Hawaii. Also, there are clubs within the Truckee Meadows that have projects called the Core Zone Project. So people can go to Mexico, cross the border, and help build houses. We've had also students go to Canada. It has a whole set of visa requirements, and we have to monitor it very carefully. Okay. One of the things that's with this, not only is there a narrative, but we've made a nice table for everybody to use. So you can go through and see who's the approval level, who has to review it, and how long approximately it should take. Again, we're all volunteers, so when you need more signatures, the student, the host family should start sooner. And if they're leaving the United States, they should know more than a week in advance that they are leaving the United States. If they're not, then it's probably not a well thought out trip, and I would not approve it. Okay. The other thing that we've attached is the final appendix to the guidelines is what our inbound students, what they agree to do, and what they sign as a set of rules in terms of their conduct while they're here at the program. This is their contract, if you will. And I won't repeat all the terms that are within the contract, because I think it's there at your fingertips to read. You'll notice they've signed them. We have each one of these signed by every inbound student. They are not allowed to come until they sign one of these. So those are our club guidelines. Any question on those? Perfect. Okay. So again, this right here at your tip of your fingertips.
I'm not seeing any questions so far. No questions so far, Tim. Okay. You're doing a great job.
We have a student move checklist that will show of issues when you're moving host families, things to think about, things that have to be accomplished. There are some forms that go with this, and when we do the actual training, we go over those. But it, again, tells you what it entails, what you can expect to do. And finally, we actually have, for those of you who want to look at the RI global picture, we have the link in the download of the handbook here too. And one of the things it has, I'm scrolling too fast, so I'm just trying to get to the table of contents. And they bury theirs a little bit. Again, so you can see a much broader view is how RI views the Rotary Youth Exchange program. Okay. One, just to remind everybody, for students, you go down to the student ones. The important things here are travel request form, travel policy is here. One of the things that's helpful to your host parents and your students is first night questions. You can see you click on that, you go to different languages. So if, for example, we take the Spanish one, your first night questions are down here both in English and translated to Spanish. And you can see, how would you like to be addressed? What are daily responsibilities? These are not necessarily an end-all list, but you will find within these 4 pages a coverage, a great many things, some of which you may not have even thought about are important in your household, but to cover with students. Okay. So again, let's refresh there or not. There we go. So go to download forms, going back, you can hit the filter results by the different categories, and they're all there. There's also on here is our current calendar. The only thing that's here, there's a couple of the deadlines are missing. When we did through the pre-review, you know, so the deadline for the student applications weren't not there. We will try to get this updated as soon as possible, and you can view it by week, month, agenda. Okay, and just it's pretty simple, self-explanatory, so you can see what's going on in November, December. So here's our long-term interview for outbounds. Okay. Useful links and contacts. These again are just hyperlinks, can take you over anyplace else. And that's it on our website. So remember how to get to our website from the district one. When you're refresh it. When you're at the home page, service, youth service, Rotary Youth Exchange, just click it. And there we are, right there's our link. Okay. The last piece I told you about a little bit was, our youth, portal. Rotary Youth Exchange portal is a way that we're automating, okay, all our database for our students. Counselors, these are password area, and I've gone past the password screen for this, that you can go in, okay, and for example, click about information on your inbound students. You'll see it has inbound students, current year, future years, prior years. For example, our current students, if you wanted to know the girl from Italy but wasn't really sure who she was, you can see them by countries, by names, and you can click it. It comes down with her picture, information of where she's at, sponsoring district where she came from, student information here with a hyperlink to her email, her current host family, hyperlinks to them along with emails. For those, because this is password, we can provide information, her insurance information if something's there. Host district, I'm the chair. Okay. The host club, YEO, counselor. Right. It also has links for those of you when you have to do those periodic reports. They're here, they're one click, and you start filling them out. The other nice thing about it, if you can't remember, your club sponsored somebody 2 years ago, you can now hit prior inbound students and find them back to 2009. Okay, the particular screen is not sortable. We have another program that it would be a whole webinar in itself about how to use that allows doing sorts and looking at different documents regarding the students. But for this one, you can go back and find students that were here back to 2009. For example, there's Maria. The one thing you won't find here is there are no pictures because we didn't load them back then. the information that we have loaded, we have brought over, and it's not sure, frankly, if some of the emails will still work, because back then we required them to take emails that we gave them. But some of them may work, and if not, it gives you a good starting place. For example, the country contact may be able to get you there. Somebody from the host club can get you there. So that's kind of the power of Yeah that's there right now, and there's many, many more things that are coming up on the future. The one thing that I wanted to, and I was remiss about not going over it, and I'm sorry to backtrack here, is there was the counselor checklist, and pardon me, I see my notes here and I had overlooked it. And for those of you who saw why I went back to the website and got the hyperlink. For counselors, when you do it, there's a whole checklist there for all your inbound students. And the one thing that we have to do an update, and I know you're on the phone, Johnson, we need to make a caveat here, is that when you use the checklist, please be sure to check with your local high school requirements. You need to know as a club of when they approve and how they approve of having foreign youth exchange students enrolled in their school. And each one is slightly different.
Well, thank you, Tim Lucas, for this demonstration. I can't believe how much information and resources are available on the website now. So it's just fabulous. Thank you very much, and thank you for sharing that with us. So again, thank you very much for participating in our webinar tonight, and good night.
Good night. Bye, everyone.